I did a little bit of. I talked a bit about a fellow called Dr. Asim Malhotra, Reform's doctor who was platformed, and the controversy that he stirred up about COVID vaccines, statins, and diet. The problem is there are people who think that COVID was a manufactured disease. There are people who think that the vaccine was manufactured, both malicious or both accidental. And the problem is this is the stuff of conspiracy. There is very little evidence for it. Let's begin with the simple fact. Statins are among the most widely prescribed drugs in the world, and tens of millions of people take them daily to lower cholesterol and reduce the risk of heart attacks. They're hardly exotic or experimental, and yet at Reform UK's conference this weekend their usefulness was thrown into question by one of the most controversial doctors in Britain, Dr. Asim Malhotra. Malhotra, once a cardiologist in the NHS, now spends his time on the international circuit. He has become an advisor to Donald Trump's Make America Healthy Again campaign, a movement spearheaded by Robert F. Kennedy Jr., another figure notorious for his unorthodox views on vaccines. And this transatlantic alliance of medical skepticism now lands in Britain, with Malhotra addressing Reform's conference under the slogan Make Britain Healthy Again. Let's look at his claims. First, COVID vaccines. Malhotra has argued repeatedly that the mRNA vaccines damage blood vessels, cause clots, and were a likely contributory factor in his own father's death, despite the heart attack occurring 6 months after vaccination. He's insisted that the vaccines caused thousands of excess cardiac deaths in 2021. The problem? The evidence doesn't support him. Excess deaths that year were also driven by repeated COVID infection itself, which is a far stronger risk factor than the heart damage and the vaccine. Public health, COVID was a much stronger risk factor for heart damage than the vaccine. Public health authorities estimate that vaccines prevented over 120,000 deaths in the UK in their first 9 months. Only 63 deaths have been registered with any mention of the vaccine as a cause. His narrative inverts reality. The shots that saved lives are painted as the culprit. Second, diet. Malhotra's earlier notoriety came from his campaign to rehabilitate saturated fat, red meat, butter, cream. Once demonized as the highway to a heart attack, he declared in 2013 that it was time to bust the myth of cholesterol. And here he touches a live controversy. Nutrition science's messy low-carb diets can help indeed to lose weight, which benefit the heart. Ultra-processed foods and sugar are now seen as villains, but mainstream cardiology still recommends limiting saturated fats. Malhotra has shifted somewhat, now recommending vegetables, olive oil and a full-fat dairy in moderation. Here, his iconoclasm is less conspiracy theory, more minority opinion. Third, statins. And this is where his argument becomes more serious and potentially harmful. Malhotra contends that statins have had little benefit for primary prevention, stopping the first heart attack, and that side effects are more common than admitted. He insists many patients suffered fatigue and muscle pain, which ruin quality of life. There is a sliver of truth here. The absolute benefit of statins for those who have not yet had a heart attack is indeed modest. Perhaps one life saved in 100, but modest is not meaningless, and the evidence of widespread severe side attacks or side effects is weak. The real danger is that by exaggerating harms, patients may stop taking statins after a heart attack where the benefit is dramatic and proven. And we should note how these medical doubts blend into the wider reform agenda. For Nigel Farage and his allies, questioning institutions from the NHS to the scientific establishment is part of the political strategy. Malhotra becomes useful not because his science stands up, but because his rhetoric resonates with those already suspicious of authority. The link with Trump and JFK Jr. shows that this is not a lone eccentric, but part of a populist medical counterculture. There's also the medical ecosystem. YouTube figures like Dr. John Campbell, widely followed during the pandemic, lend a surface of credibility. Campbell is not a medical doctor. He trained in nursing education, yet he has 700 million views and his videos suggest vaccinated people have higher mortality, a claim not supported by rigorous data. This blurring of expertise, cardiologist turned campaigner, nurse educator turned YouTube guru, produces noise that can drain out and drown out genuine science. What is the cost of this noise? Vaccine hesitancy is rising. Childhood measles outbreaks are back. Patients doubt their statins and stop taking them. Distrust once sown is hard to uproot. Meanwhile, the Nobel Prize in Medicine has just gone to Kathleen Carrico and Drew Weissman, whose work made mRNA vaccines possible. A reminder that the scientific consensus is not a plot, but the product of decades of labour, peer review and global cooperation. So here is the irony. Reform UK wants to make Britain healthy again, yet by giving that platform to Dr. Malhotra, they risk making Britain less healthy, not through steak or butter, but through scepticism that undermines the very public health tools that have saved millions. And perhaps the final lesson is this: statins, vaccines, nutrition advice, all of them live in the world of probabilities, not certainties. Science is rarely absolute. But populism feeds on absolutes, and when the two collide, the result is not better health, it's confusion, mistrust, and sometimes death.